What are some things to know if you're a new parent entering back into the workforce?
In terms of childcare leave, okay, I'm pretty bad in numbers. You can actually look it all up on MOM. They are very fixed designated childcare leave. There's another thing I do advise, which I noticed this with a lot of parents as well. A lot of them don't check with HR what their entitlement is. Then they don't even know exactly how many days of leave they have. So if you can do a bit of research, read up on the Ministry of Manpower's website, but also go to your company, because your company sometimes has unique benefits. I remember many years ago, when I was, trying to support a hiring campaign, the HR person didn't tell us certain things at that time, and then it was only during a presentation she started to go on off about what they offered as a firm, right, and all the benefits of the leaves and all the paid childcare, unpaid childcare, and the funniest thing is, as she's talking, some of the employees in the firm were like, wow, we also didn't know. If you're self-employed, you are allowed to claim for childcare leave. You just have to actually declare it because you are an employer of yourself. Yeah.
Where can they declare the self-entitlement?
When you're actually filling out the form and asking for the childcare leave at the end of the year, they will actually ask you, to complete some information. I remember many years ago, not many years ago, but a few years back, they will even ask you, sometimes they will call you to go to court to just, we always say to court sampa to say that, yes, I really am, I didn't fake a company so they can get additional childcare leave. But I don't think they do so anymore. They will just do some verification to check. Yeah.
So how can parents deal with the guilt of spending less bonding time with their children? And is it wrong to secretly enjoy going back to work?
I'm going to say no. This is very individual in the sense that I feel if you are someone that really genuinely enjoys your career, or you feel that your identity, we wear many hats, right? And one of the hats that we wear is actually of a career person, a career woman, or a career individual, right? Some of us are happy to let go of the hat, and some of us are happy to let go of the hat for that period of time, for example. But some of us actually, as we let go, we really struggle. We say, it's not something I don't want. I love my job and I don't really want to give it up. So the guilt is always going to be there. My point is that you feel guilt because you feel that you cannot fulfill everything. You always feel like, I'm missing out on this, I'm missing out on that, right? The question then is, what is it that makes you, where's that balance that makes you yourself happy? And don't look at other people. I've always told people, sometimes, some mothers, they post all these amazing photos of all their time spent with their kids, lunch date with child number 1, then lunch date child number 2. And I think to myself, I don't even lunch date myself, how to have lunch date, right? So again, the point is, it's you, your time, your kids, and you figure out what's important to you.
I had to step out of work for a period of time. Will it be a challenge to go back to work?
So at Marks & Work, we do quite a bit of what we call back to work hiring. We support companies that hire women back to work. And we see this very common thing about back to work moms or dads, actually more moms like in this case, because when women take career breaks, it can be very long. Sometimes it can be as short as 6 months. Sometimes the longest I've seen has been 19, 20 years, right? And they still want to come back. Yeah, pretty amazing, actually. And I'll be honest to say that the longer your career break, very often the individual's confidence level does go down. So more than anything else, it is the confidence level that is affected. But there is also some truth, because for certain sectors, maybe the skill sets needed needs to be upgraded. And the good news is that right now out there's a lot of upskilling activities, training. Some are even free, some are paid for, some are sponsored, some are partnership. It's become this amazing world of constant upskilling. So if you do step out, I always say, make sure that somehow, some way you are trying to stay relevant. And then of course there are moms who say, when I took my time off from work, I entirely spent my entire time only with the kids. And I used to tell them, instead of, if you decide to do this break now, remember this throughout that period of time that you're away, if possible, at least once a week or once every 2 weeks, for example, spend a bit of time devoted to trying to make sure that you are still in the loop of things. So what do I mean by that? Like, make sure you sign up for a course that maybe only needs commitment for once a week or once every 2 weeks, for example. But that helps to keep you kind of relevant and make you feel relevant, and at least the confidence level doesn't totally plummet. That's one thing. Second thing is also the idea that you keep in touch with your ex-colleagues, keep in touch with the working world. I know a lot of stay-at-home moms will probably agree with me. Sometimes if you spend all the time with the children, there might be times where you feel like, that's why I'm talking children language, right? I'm talking about how much they eat and how much milk they drink. But you need that whole idea that, okay, there is a part of you were somebody before the child was born. and that somebody is still very much alive and in your brain. So it's very important to make sure that part of you stays, very much still a part of you, and you are engaged in it in some way or another, right? Because when you want to do step back in, that transition is there, and it's a lot easier if you haven't felt like you fully stepped up.
How is the working environment like over the last 2 years? And what skills should mothers prepare for when entering the workforce?
Okay, the last 2 years has been the most special 2 years of our entire lives, I think.
Yeah.
But it's a good question, because I think COVID has changed certain things, but it also hasn't changed everything. So I'll be very frank to say that when COVID first started, I was asked to go and give a lot of talks about how, wow, we're going to change the world. From now on, everybody can work from home forever, right? And then government announced we can go back to work, and then a lot of companies say, okay, everybody come back in, right? So again, I think if you ask me in terms of the work environment, the changes are that people no longer frown upon unique work situations. So for example, work from home, working part-time, working certain days of a week and not other days of a week. I remember when I first started 12 years ago, I used to tell people, oh, we run a portal for flexible work arrangement, and companies will tell me, I'm very flexible. We are a very flexible firm. You can start 8:30, 9 o'clock or 9:30. I said, but that's not flexibility. Now people seem to get it. They understand flexible means that there's different work arrangements. So the good news is that there are more options out there compared to the earlier years where employers tend to be more fixated that this is the only type of work arrangement, right? And when there are more options out there, actually what's happening is that it also allows women or men who've taken a break or want that kind of a flexibility to come up and say, I would like to have some flexibility in this job, for example. The other part of the question, right, Rose, is really about whether skill sets have changed, right? I think this is an important one. Skill sets have changed. This afternoon, I tried to do a training to managers, right? And a lot of managers these days are asking for people who are very adaptable, very willing to come in and learn new things. Very willing to try new things, and very willing to say that if things change on you, you don't panic and like power has ended, right? The good news is this allows some of the women or men who stepped away for some time to come back in and say, I have equal footing, because to be honest, how adaptable you are isn't dependent on how many years you've worked for or how much work experience you have, right? It's really dependent on your personality and your ability to adapt to change. So as long as you can justify that, I think that helps. And the last thing that I would say for this is really, you're talking about people who are technologically way more savvy than before. That's the demand in the market. So they're always asking me tech people. I hear this tech all the time. And it's true, because really around us, everything is technology now. Right? So if you can show up that you have learned new tech skills, I think that's very beneficial. Yeah. So requesting flexibility from the firm. So this is a really interesting one. One of the things that managers shared was, if an employee comes up and says, I'm asking for this flexibility, I know what is the possible inconvenience to the team, this is my suggested solution. Okay. And when we were talking about this, all the managers said, yes, I would love it. And it shows me that this person has thought about it and has helped me as a manager try to manage, how I'm going to answer to why suddenly someone has flexibility and someone else doesn't have, for example. And it also helps me to answer things, for example, where I'm worried that, it affects the rest of the team, who is going to cover and things like that. So I almost say this all the time, right, Kathleen, that if you want to ask for flexibility, you should, but you also have to have all your things settled. Like, I'm asking for flexibility. I get that flexibility. In return, this is what I've thought about. What's going to happen? Maybe, you need an extra person in the office during that time. Maybe so-and-so can cover me. And if so-and-so cannot, you can contact me at home between this time to this time. I will always respond to you within an hour, within 2 hours. So give some kind of assurance to your manager so that at least he or she can say, okay, I can see the justification for this. I can fight for a case and go and ask HR for it. Yeah.
Do you see employers willing to hire those who have taken a brand new skill set that's irrelevant to the past working experience? And would such a skill set be considered as an entry-level profession?
Okay, so this is really called a career transitioner. So for Rebecca who asked that question, it will depend on which skill it is. But bear this in mind, every job has more than one skill requirement, right? And sometimes when you move from job to job, there are certain skills that are called, they're brand new to you. But there are also some skills that you've always used that are what we call transferable. So when you go into a job interview like that, you want to highlight the transferable skills. Everybody has transferable skills. We have seen teachers go on to work in a bank. We've seen bankers leave banks and then they go on to work in a totally like a technology firm. We've also seen people go, really literally, this is the world of career transitioners. And for career transitioners, it's a very different way of applying for jobs. Your question about entry level, it's not necessary, because as career transitioners, you don't have to say, I need to start from scratch. If the skill is, there are some transferable skills, you have some bargaining power, right? But what's interesting is that every job has a range. You may not be at the top of the range, but for the same job rank, for example, you may be at the lower end of the range, but you don't always have to go back to ground zero, if that helps. So it's, and the important thing for a job seeker, I always say this, right, to all moms, whether you're coming back to work or not, I always say to them, identify your transferable skills, because only you know what you have. The transferable skills are valuable to the employer. So you need to think through what are the things that the employer will need. Highlight that when you're going to apply, highlight that in your interview, and when you talk about yourself, also focus on that.
This lady, she is pregnant and she has not given birth yet, but she's worried about her baby falling sick after her 4 months maternity leave. And her only option is infant care. So she's contemplating to ask for no pay leave for another 2 months. And in your opinion, how early should she ask for it?
This is something my PD told me, and I found to be quite true. He said the first 6 months of an infant's life, actually, they're quite healthy because the immunity is very high from after giving birth. It's after the first 6 months, right? Sometimes some of them may actually start to have small little illnesses, and that's when you tend to take leave. So if I look at your calculation, 4 + 2, 6, just nice. So when you finish taking leave, oh, that's where the immunity drops a little bit and they may fall sick more often. So rather than take the leave now, why don't you try out the 4 months maternity leave first and then see what happens from there. And I also say this because for your employer, 4 months is the time they wait for you. Very often it is better for you to try to go back in and see what's happening, see if it can be adjusted. And rather than use up, say, 2 months of no pay leave immediately.
Could you share some tips on maintaining a good relationship with bosses and colleagues? And what are the advantages of doing so?
A lot of moms who work, new moms, what's interesting is you find that your colleagues actually don't adjust to the fact that you've become a mom, especially if all this while you're the single person and then you got married and then you had kids, right? To them, one day you had a huge tummy. 4 months later, you came back, you had no more tummy. They don't remember, or they don't realize that your world at home has changed. Every night you need to stay up to feed the kid, and life is very different. To them, I was still Shirley, talkative, happy Shirley. They don't realize that this Shirley didn't sleep all night already. It's a very different person. So one of the things I learned and I've used, and someone taught me this and I felt very useful, and I've also encouraged other moms to do, and they say it works, is once you give birth, you have to bring the baby to the office. Okay, maybe COVID's a bit harder, but somehow, some way, they must be able to see that there is a baby that came out of the stomach, which this is the baby who is making, I have changed because of this baby. And there is something which I know one of my colleagues shared with me last time. She said the day she held my baby, she realized this is what's keeping Shirley up at night, and she's not the same. She's tired when she comes in. So that's what I'm trying to say, that if somehow you can convey that, it's much better than if you're just talking, because you can come and say, I'm really tired, it is very hard for them to empathize. But once you have that, there's a bit of empathy there, especially for the colleagues or bosses who are not parents themselves yet. This is quite powerful. I would do that. And second thing is, I would say that because your world has changed, their world hasn't yet. What's happened is that if you keep on talking only about babies and children and all that, sometimes they can't connect. So there has to be a nice mixture of saying, you remember how I told you there's a career hat? That career hat has to keep on sort of saying that I'm still here. There's parts of me that enjoys life before children, in that sense. I find that when women do that, they feel more fulfilled. That's one thing, but they also seem to gel better with their different colleagues. Yeah.
Do you have any tips for a mother who has been out of the workforce for over 10 years and unfortunately hasn't been staying relevant?
No problem, Rebecca. You are from now to the next 6 months to become relevant again. So the upskilling that I talked about, a lot of people are coming back to work. A lot of people are also, this interesting thing. When I say relevant, sometimes people can be in a job, but their skills may not have been upgraded. If their own firm is quite, backwards, and there are firms who are still quite backwards in the technology, for example, the person that is currently there will also struggle to find a new role. So the main goal now is to stay relevant, meaning that you start to upskill yourself, start going out there, have a LinkedIn profile, start really going out there to network and see who can start giving you a job. It will take some time. Nothing is immediate. I know that there were moms who told me, I've taken a 12-year break. It took me half a year, 8 months to find a job. Then I said, I know people who never stopped working, and then finally when they stop working, they also take 8 months to find a job. So it's not about so much just because the gap is there. There's a lot of things that happen in order to try to get a new job again. So, this is only one portion of you. So really start to upskill, start your LinkedIn profile, start getting in touch, find out what's out there and know what you want to do. Then at least you know how to design a career path.